Welcome back to St James's Pod. I'm Sam and I'm here with Tom and Alex for a bit of a different show this time. We're going to be talking about players that we would take at Newcastle United from the three relegated sides from the Premier League last season. That's Leeds, Leicester and Southampton. We'll also be going over club news at the top of the show as always, but in the big news is Sandro Tonali. We'll be giving our thoughts on that. There's no sponsor this week, guys, so if you could like the episode, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow us if you're on a podcast platform, and also follow us on social media at St James's Pod everywhere. And I'll just give you a minute to do that and we'll sit in silence. Alright, let's start with the club news. So, first up, let's talk the stadium expansion that's just been rumoured in the news this week. Tom, do you want to get us started with that? Because I think there's two parts to this, right?
Yeah, so it seems as though we've made a bit of a breakthrough on the East Stand, an area which we thought we could never really do much with, and then topped with talk of getting the Gallagher end as well to be developed. So that would potentially see us in a few years' time, if those developments were able to go through, to take us up to 63,000 capacity is what the number in which they're talking about, which would be very exciting, and yeah, much needed as well, as we were a full sellout last season for all of our home games. So the demand is there. So yeah, I think it's a good sign that the owners are looking to try and find ways to expand the ground.
It would be like more of a cauldronish atmosphere as well, if you get that noise coming from that end as well. Alex, the safe standing's been completed, I believe, as well.
Aye, so there's photos come through in the last couple of days that it looks like it's all sorted for the corner. So should be raring to go for the pre-season games. So I'm really looking forward to getting back in there. Like 12th of August, home to Villa. Like it'll be fucking bouncing. Like, but like everyone in that corner now, like will be on their feet like 90 minutes, like all game. Like it should help the atmosphere and it should be safer, so you don't go tumbling down the roads when we do score. But yeah, fucking looking forward to it.
And but in other news this week, we've got the women's team have gone full time, which is great news. It's also a bit unusual for the league they're in, but it shows the intent there from the club and from Amanda pushing that. And that means they're going to be all classed as professionals, right? They'll be on a professional contract and they can focus on the football, which is great. Anthony Gordon is playing in the Euros tournament along with Tonali. He scored, didn't he? And I think he got an assist as well, did he? He's been playing well.
Goal assist. He's been playing up top, so obviously Eddie did bring him in to be quite a versatile player. So for under-21s playing as like a number 9 or fairly fluid across the front three really. And he's picking up a goal and assist. The game before, he got a goal ruled out for, I think it was a marginal offside. So, and I think both of them were headers as well, where the crosses came in and he got across his man. So yeah, good finishes, and it's good to see because he said himself during the season that he's not fit enough, which is like damning for Everton, to be honest. Yeah. So he said he's like not up to scratch, and he could probably do with a full summer of training and yeah, hard work. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do next season, because I do think he'll step up, because he does need to. He's came with a big price tag, so it'd be nice to see some reward for that on the pitch.
Yeah, it should be good for his confidence as well, because he probably took a bit of a battering, especially at Everton before he left. Alright, let's move on to the man who isn't quite 100% signed yet, but it's pretty much rumoured that we're just waiting for the tournament to end and then he'll be in the famous black and white, and that is Tonali. That is, what a signing that is.
Fucking statement, like, isn't it? Straight out the blocks. From
Huge
anywhere.
statement. Rumoured 70 million euros. Which I think loosely converted is about £60 million or £65 million, something like that.
I'm sure Luke Edwards did come out today and say that it's actually less than 55. It's less than like what's been reported at the moment. Like he said, like I think he's on holiday or some shite, but he said like don't trust like everything that everyone's saying about it being like 70 million euros or something. He said it's like it is gonna be a lot less. Like this, well, the fee up front especially. There'll obviously be add-ons for when we win the Champions League and that, but
yeah, I think that's what it'll be. It's probably more like 50 and then add-ons, and it'll be structured as well over a number of seasons to help with FFP. But yeah, I mean, who wants to talk about this guy, because he's incredible, isn't he? Looking at his stats and stuff.
Well, yeah, the stats alone, but just obviously how important he's been for both national team and for AC in the last few years. He's commanded that midfield. He obviously won a league title with AC, not this season but the season before, and perfect sort of defensive midfielder that we've been calling out for. We know that it's an area that we're desperate for, to unlock Bruno a little bit more, and also just to keep the numbers in that area of the field, because we're going to carry on playing that free in the midfield. We need those players in there, so it was a high priority to get somebody in, but to get somebody of the quality and the even just still the future prospects in him. Like, he's still young enough that he can improve, and under Eddie, the sky's the limit. So yeah, it's interesting reading stuff about how he's been reported to have broken down in tears, like that he's not quite. I don't know how much to read into that, and if whether or not, I just don't want it to be a Mikel Merino kind of situation where the player comes in but is instantly not feeling right because they're feeling homesick and all that kind of stuff. Like, that would be my only slight worry. But again, I don't know how much to believe on those reports that he's been in tears over being forced out by AC. Is what the reports were saying. So yeah, I don't know how much of that you can read into.
The Toon's obviously well described as the Milan of England, so I'm sure he'll be alright. He's a set piece taker as well, isn't he? So that's going to be another positive for next season, so that Trippier doesn't have to take every single set piece.
Yeah, it means that when Trippier's not on the pitch, that would like, obviously he's not relied on half as much, because we've got another set piece taker who takes corners and all the deep free kicks. I think you've seen he got an assist the other day for the under-21s by one of them balls. It was deep inside his own half. He basically cut it perfectly into the box for a header. So he comes with like abundance of talent. Like, I seen Mancini, the Italy boss, spoke the other day. He said like basically it's sad for him to go, because I think obviously he wants the best Italian players to be playing in Italy. But he was like, he thinks that he will like be suited to the Premier League, and at the age of like 23, over 200 senior appearances, it's just like, it's class to get a player of his like caliber in like early. Like, I think like from what I've seen of him, he's sort of the similar kind of sort of player as Longstaff, but just technically he's significantly better. So I think that's the kind of mould he'll play. Like, obviously Barella we were linked with, he's a bit more of like an advanced player, but it just seems like it's just the perfect upgrade. Like, he's young, he's driven, he's played in the Champions League semis last year. He won the league with AC the year before. Like, he's the real deal, and honestly, I can't wait to see him in black and white.
Do you
and he's got lovely hair as well.
Class hair.
Could be the best hair in the team for sure. No, I don't know if to believe much of, like, we were linked with Barella, or it seemed in the media that Barella was our number one target initially, and then we got priced out of Barella quite quickly into or after north of like 70 million euros, between 70-80 million euros, which we just weren't willing to pay. But then I don't know if we then Tonali was a second choice in that respect, or if it was just that the media have just kind of diverted us one way, thinking Barella, and then Tonali's always been the one that we've been after. I don't know what to make of that.
We could have been after both, because obviously they're not strictly the same position. Like Alex was saying, Barella's a bit more of an attacking player. Although I do think Tonali, like you say, he's not like a strict CDM, so he will probably come in and replace Longstaff.
Hasn't been playing strictly a CDM himself, so it's that fluid do it all.
And he covers a lot of ground. So I imagine we'll see Bruno be unleashed going forward a bit more, because he can do that role a bit better if he has to sit. But I think he'll be going forward as well, so you will still see Bruno sitting in the 6 sometimes. But I think that'll be good. And the question is, if we've got both of them, do we stick with the same formation and you play either Willock or Joe Linton or Sean as well, or do we change formation a bit to get the best players on the pitch?
Personally, I think that we'll carry on with Joe Willock and Joe Linton on the left hand side. I think that's the perfect sort of 4-3-3, carry on where we are. Bruno, Tonali, Joe Linton / Willock on the left, because they work so well together. I don't see, like, obviously there's been rumours about Maxi going and stuff like that, going to Italy. If like anyone's going to get some fees into the club so and buy another player, it's going to be Maxi. But yeah, I think that's the way Eddie Howe will go. I think we'll go with that rotation on the left. And unfortunate for Sean Longstaff, because he's had the best season of his career by far, and then we've basically, as we said like on previous podcasts, that's who we're looking to replace really. So it's just it's a shame, but it was always going to happen with such a sort of steep rise for Newcastle really, and making the Champions League. It's got to get better players in. So
and there's also the squad depth as well, which obviously we're coming up to talking about players we'll take from the relegated teams, and we do need a mix of first team starters who are quality enough for the Champions League, like Tonali. But then we're also going to need squad depth for rotation. There's this how impactful the subs were last season, FA Cup, League Cup. So I was thinking, like, when you were saying that, a player sort of like Dan Burn, who was instrumental last season as well, like we relied on him so much playing at left back, but then we're linked heavily with left backs. But he's still going to get so many games because he obviously can play centre back, and he'll be in there when Botman needs a rest and for injuries and stuff, but also a left back. So I think players like him and Sean, who we obviously love being from the region and stuff, and they've made such an impact last season, they should still get plenty of minutes next season. I mean, fingers crossed it's not through injuries, but
that's the thing, you know, that like someone like Longstaff can come in after a Champions League game and do a job. If like we have had like a hard game and some tired legs, you know he can come in and do a job now. So you wouldn't see him on like a Sunday after a Champions League midweek game and think, oh fuck's sake, like it's a bit of a downgrade from Tonali. You'd be like, yep, we know he can do a job. We can trust him to do a job, and fair play. Like he's definitely got, as you said, he's definitely got a big role to play still.
And let's be honest as well, like the added quality coming in can only help Longstaff in terms of and others to like raise their game and learn a bit as well from players coming from another foreign league and bringing their style of play into the team as well. Like I can definitely see that Bruno and like Joe Linton and others, like since they've been in the squad, they've obviously passed on like some of their like skills and knowledge and stuff to some of the players around them. Like we were saying there about when Longstaff's had to fill in at times for Bruno when he's either been injured or suspended, and he's filled in admirably. And like, yeah, I think again, he's picking up new stuff all the time. Even at the age he is, he's still young enough to pick up new elements of his game. So Tonali coming in, just adds that extra competition and can only do, I think, better things for the squad overall.
Top stuff, right? Let's get into the main course of the show then. So we're talking players that we'd take at Newcastle United from the relegated teams, which are, of course, Leeds, Leicester and Southampton. So the idea here is that these players are going to probably want to get away, come back to the Premier League, so it should be easier for us to get them out of their club, and also the clubs themselves probably looking to cash in and make some money. So we've got 3 teams to go over here. We'll start with Leeds, just because I wrote them down first. And I think the player that we'll start with the player we've been linked with in previous windows, which is Jack Harrison. Now, I was looking at him last night and his contract actually expires in 2028. So you can imagine that that's making it a little bit harder to get him out of there. Whether or not he'll be pushing for a move back to the Premier League, I'm not too sure. But his current market value apparently is around 22 million euros. 26 years old. Is this, like, for me, my gut feeling with Jack Harrison is that he was probably a transfer that did make sense 12 months ago, but probably not now that we've qualified for the Champions League. I think he might just be just a cut below what we'd be looking for, and because of his position, I'm not sure we really need the squad depth there. And at 26, he's kind of hitting his peak as well, so I'm not sure there's any real room for growth in terms of being a youngster or anything. So I don't know, what do you guys think, Jack Harrison?
I think at the time, like you say, he was a player that we were desperately in need of, in terms of a left-footed player who could come in off that right-hand side, and especially when Miggy's not been quite at it, then yeah, we haven't had somebody who is left-footed who could play, off that flank. I know we ended up, getting my boy Murphy in and changing it up a little bit and going for a true right-footed winger for parts last season, which was really effective, and it mixed things up a little bit. But yeah, when we had Miggy as our starter on that side of the field, there wasn't the backup there for him in the exact mould. So yeah, Harrison has in patches looked like that sort of player who could make a difference, but I think he towards the back end of last season, like a lot of Leeds players, just went missing. I'm not sure if how much of that was down to his fitness as well, but yeah, I feel as though the boat would have sailed for him a little bit, and that, yeah, I think the January where we were trying to get him, was it the January when we got Bruno in? Yeah, so like not last January but the January before, I think that was the point where that signing needed to have happened. But I think from that perspective, I don't think we would necessarily look to him again. And also, I don't know if he will end up leaving Leeds this summer, and I think he's one of them that, like you say, big contract, but he knows the Championship because he came up with them from the Championship, so I think they'll probably try and keep a hold of him, and I think he probably as well will know that not many clubs will break the bank to try and get him.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you too. Basically, I'm going to keep this quite short. I think at the time he would have been a decent signing. The reason why we didn't sign him is because we didn't want to pay north of sort of 40 million or so, which Leeds were asking for at the time. Where we're at now, he would be a squad depth player. He wouldn't start. So if this sort of 20, 25 million region that Sam's mentioned is what he's going to go for, I'll be honest, I'd rather go for a sort of a young prospect who's sort of 19, 20 years old, that we can sort of bring through and make better, basically. Because I've, I think the players went off the boil a bit, and I don't think clubs will be clamouring to break the bank to sign him. So I could see him staying with Leeds and trying to get them back up.
Cool. Do you want to kick us off with the next Leeds player?
I will. One who I'm really keen on, and I know I don't know if he did, but he's right up there with the amount of tackles he made this season, Tyler Adams. The only reason why I'd sort of gone off him a little bit was because we've made a sign in his position, really. I think he's a really good player. He's really good at breaking the play up. He's composed on the ball. He's comfortable with it at his feet, and I just think he's a well-rounded player. Picks up a lot of yellow cards, but so does Joe Linton, so it doesn't necessarily make you a bad player. So he is a player that I like, and if we could get him for the right price, I would still probably take him, but I don't think there's that need as much with getting Tonali in to get sort of that sort of number 6, like sort of ball winning midfielder now. Whereas a couple of weeks ago, if you offered us him, for a decent price, I would probably snap your hand off. To be honest, I think he's probably one of Leeds' best players who goes down, and I'd be shocked if he's still playing there next season. I think he'll probably get snapped up by someone.
Yeah. Tom?
Yeah, I'm seeing.
Tyler Adams.
I've just seen there that Everton are being heavily linked with him, so I'd agree there with Alex that we're not going to see Adams in the Championship. I don't think he's definitely Premier League bound. I think he's impressed enough last season in his first season to be one of those top number 6s from last season. He was. Remember in the game last season in the 0-0 at home, like he was a right little shit and just like he was always just buzzing around and like just constantly in the faces of our players and like just disrupting like everything that we were trying to do. So, and that's the greatest sort of compliment I could give to him is that he's very much capable of doing that for a team. But I think, like you say, it's not a priority, and I think Leeds will be after similar-ish money to what we're probably paying for Tonali, I would think. Maybe a little less, maybe
Really?
Maybe 10 mil or so less, but still, because it's his contract. Like they signed him for a fair price as well. They'll look to probably get double what they bought him for. So I think he's one which would command quite a high price tag, which we don't need to spend that again after bringing in Tonali. So my feelings are the same as Alex there on good player, but just not needed for us.
Is there any, where you talk about him being linked with Everton, is there any rumoured price tag in that story?
They haven't named a price necessarily, but they're heavily linked with 3 players from Leeds, including one which I was going to mention as a potential for us in Willie Nonto, and the other player that they're linked with is the Crescencio Somerville, who are both young attacking forwards who have had flashes as well last season in parts. But yeah, it doesn't mention necessarily how much Everton would be looking to spend. I don't think they've got that much money to spend, if I'm led to believe. So I don't know where they would.
Aren't we still waiting for them to get a punishment for? Is it breaking FFP rules or dodgy taxes or something?
Like, if Man City can get away with it, they're not going to then make a mockery of the whole system by then banning Everton for a much smaller rule break, despite it being a rule break. But I just can't see it happening, especially not a points deduction anyways. I'd be absolutely shocked.
Yeah,
well,
I think from...
Go on, mate, sorry.
I was going to say the only way in which they would be able to bring in those sort of players that we've just mentioned there, there's rumours of them potentially looking to sell Jordan Pickford, as Man United are looking to bring in a De Gea replacement. Yeah, so another player that I would be looking into would be Willy Gnonto. I think he's that young kind of forward player that I think we need to get. Wilson is into his 30s now. He's obviously still quality, and we still look to use him heavily next season. But apart from him, we've got Isak and then Gordon, who, as we mentioned at the top of the show, he's starting to get the goals on an international level, which we hope we can bring to our team. But yeah, I think somebody else as well is needed who can play across all of those positions. And Gnonto, for again a debut season, looks a player, and he's just a lot of energy, quite short, quite powerful as well, and yeah, I think he's one that could definitely add goals from a wide position, and yeah, if we needed to, he could be quite quick off the playing off the last man. So I reckon Gnonto could be somebody we could target. Leeds will probably want to turn a fair profit on him. They didn't sign him for that much. He came from a Swiss side for pretty much a nominal fee. So yeah, they'll probably look to get a nice profit. But then there is talk of a release clause in his contract as well from a relegation. So it'd be interesting to see if we were to test that, if we would bring him in.
If he's got a clause in his contract, for 20-25 mil, I'd absolutely be for going for that. He's a fucking defender's nightmare. He's proper rapid. He's really good on the ball, and I don't understand how he didn't start more games from last season. I'm sure that first half of the season, he was looking like a proper player, and then for some reason or another, he just wasn't starting games.
Was it when they changed manager?
Well, I don't know. There was a few managers that weren't playing him. Even Fat Sam at the end, he wasn't starting. He wasn't starting the last 4 games. Obviously, they changed managers to Gracia. I don't think he started for him. I just don't know what happened. He looks such a talent, and I think it's absolutely ludicrous that he didn't get more minutes. I'm sure he only played about 25 games, and I don't think he was particularly injured. But I'd take him in a fucking heartbeat, mate. I think he's a real talent, and he's 19. He's already been capped for Italy's first team. I think he scored the other night for the under-21s in the same game that Tonali's been playing and assisting in. So they might have a bit of chemistry. Of course, I am. If they do have a decent release clause in his contract.
Yeah. If there's no release clause, how much do you think it's going to cost to get him out of Leeds?
I guess a good 40 million. He's 19 years old. I think he's under contract for another 4 years or something like that. The only thing is that if the player forced to move, because I think I just had a look and he's only on 20 grand a week. So
yeah.
you'd think he'd be able to move back to the Prem if he's starting for Italy seniors as well. Does he really want to be playing in the Championship? Of course not. So a player like that might want to force his move as opposed to playing in the Championship. But I guess we'll see.
Well, a player I was going to talk about, which is kind of similar position but other end of the age scale, is Rodrigo. And whether or not you would take Rodrigo, because his contract expires next year, so he's only got a year left on it. Obviously relegated to the Championship, and he's probably going to be looking for his final move at that age. His current market value according to SofaScore is €6 million, so you would imagine you get him for under £10 million.
I'm certain you can, because I think he's got a relegation release clause.
Really?
Yeah, I read that maybe a week or two ago, something like that. Apparently his release clause is something really small, like 4 million or something.
Well,
so because Leeds fans were basically raging, saying like we've spent all this money on him, shot themselves in the foot, giving him like a really small relegation release clause, expecting them not to get relegated, basically. So he's one we could get for really cheap, I think.
Well, I guess the question there is, one, do you think he's good enough? Two, his age, and whether he'd be looking for like a long bumper contract. Because I'd be inclined to take him on the cheap if it's for like next season as cover. If we're not getting another striker in until maybe next summer, then we can get him in for cheap and potentially get in a youngster as well, and like cheap, and have him take over from Rodrigo when he kicks it as well as Wilson. But I don't know, I think having two over 30, not too sure. Good player though.
He's got Champions League experience from his time playing in Spain with Valencia, so it's obviously a boost there with another player who's able to, be quite familiar, although it's a few seasons ago now since he was playing in that competition. But he has done it and looked okay as well from when he has played at that level. Times this season he popped up with some important goals for Leeds. They were generally misfiring up front, and his position, he's quite versatile. He would normally see him sort of sitting maybe behind the striker, rather than being the main focal point, or again maybe playing out wide. But I think, if the fee was right and we weren't going to be lumped with him for too long, then he could be a good short-term move. A bit like the sort of move we did with Chris Wood, but obviously for different reasons, like getting somebody who's experienced, who is only going to sort of be around for a couple of seasons just to tie us over during this next phase of transition. So yeah, I think it could work, but the financials have to be right.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad shot at all, to be honest. As you mentioned, Chris Wood there, he's obviously going to be a third string striker, but it's not really a bad one to fall back on for like League Cup games and to bring on off the bench and stuff like that. He's got a lot of experience. Technically, he's a lot better than Chris Wood. He'll be a lot better towards our style of play, and then it'll allow players like Kual just to be loaned back out another season and not like rely on them as like a third string striker. So keep the likes of Kual and Minte out on loan. So yeah, it would make sense to have a more experienced third striker to have all those competitions.
So I guess we're all for it as long as the contract and everything makes sense.
Price is right, yeah.
I can't see Eddie Howe going for it, but
no.
Another player from Leeds, I don't know if you guys got any more, but just before we move on from Leeds, I was having a look at Darko Gyabi, 19 years old, so he'd fit that kind of youngster. We wouldn't have to name him in the 25-man squad. He made 18 appearances for them last season with 5 goal contributions, which I thought was pretty good. Them numbers, like only 18 appearances get 5 goal contributions, and he's only 19 years old. Centre mid from Ghana, contract expires in 2026, so he's still got a decent amount of time left on it. But they only bought him for 5.8 million euros last year, so you would imagine you could get him out of Leeds for under 10 mil.
Well, yeah, he's one of these that have come through City's academy, and I think we're going to touch upon a few of those players from who ended up at Southampton. But yeah, I think that in itself is obviously a big plus if we could, get players who've been in that the academy system there at City, just to help boost our own academy system and again add that competition. I know, the Cities, the Chelseas, and the like, they've went down that model of like trying to sign top youngsters from other rivals academies just to help boost their own and add those competition places. So yeah, I don't think he's necessarily first team ready, but from what I've heard, and there's again quite a few Leeds fans I know have really liked the look of him in the reserve games, the Premier League 2 games. So could be one that we would look to nab, but then again, these are the sort of players that Leeds might turn to in the Championship to throw them in there and maybe hope that they can get them back out of the Championship. It's Championship can be a good sort of barometer for some of these players. Like, we only have to look back at like Andy Carroll, when we kind of threw all of our expectations at him to get us back out of the Championship when we first went down, and he took to that like a duck to water. So yeah, Leeds might expect the same of Giabi, but somebody I would say we could look at testing the waters on.
I'm not gonna lie and say I've seen too much of him, but I think, as you said, Paige, maybe if we can get him for a decent price, if he's got a cheap clause in his contract, loan him back to Leeds. That would work for us. He's played at England youth levels all the way through his career by the looks of it. So homegrown player, get him some more experience. Why not? If again, another one of those that if the price is right, why not?
Cool. All right, let's. Any other Leeds players, or do you want to move on to?
I'm absolutely not touching the defence, so no, I think that's just fully enough Leeds for now.
Do you want to jump to Southampton and talk about them players you were just mentioning, Tom? We'll save the big boys at Leicester till the end.
Yeah, no, of course. So Southampton were quite active at the start of last season at signing players from Man City's academy. I think they made a move to bring the academy director into their backroom team at Southampton last season, and he brought quite a few of their top young talents as well. But the one that stood out for me, and I believe City put a buyback clause in there, so I'm sure they'll be keeping an eye on things. With Romeo Lavia, I got to see him a few times in the flesh last season, with obviously the cup games that we played against them, and he really stood out for me. He just seemed to just broke up the play really well, but also has real quality on the ball. It's a position that, again, we've talked about, do we need necessarily? I think he can play a few positions other than the six, but can play a little bit more advanced. But he's a really good age for a centre midfielder at 19.
Good age.
Good age. And he just looks a real talent. And I can't imagine them sticking around at Southampton for much longer. There's some talk of big clubs looking at him, Liverpool looking at him. Obviously, City might well be tempted into getting the buyback clause activated if one of those rival clubs are sniffing around. So just looks a real player.
Are we talking like a 50 million
at least
fee here though?
Yeah.
That's what's been touted, that Liverpool's went in from 50 million high. But it seems like all of the big six teams have been linked with him, like at some point or another. Like I know Arsenal and Chelsea have both been linked with him. Obviously, as you said, the buyback clause potentially with Man City. But he is a talent. Like, he's a really good player. Obviously, when Southampton scored at our place, he was the one who dispossessed Bruno to catch one on the break.
Yeah.
And he is one of those players who he's like a Kante who's just everywhere at all times. Like, he never stops running, but technically great on the ball as well. Obviously came through the Man City academy. I think he's probably out of our price range because I don't think we're ready to get in a bidding war with the rest of the Prem with these kind of players. So I'd be shocked if we ended up signing him. But yeah, he's a talent, and yeah, he would be my pick of Southampton players that we could sign, but just wrong time, wrong place. I think I just can't see it happening.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if we're dropping that much money on Tonali, I can't see us spending. Well, I'll say that there's a player coming up that I think we might spend a bit of money on, but yeah, it's a shame because he does look absolutely quality, and obviously he's 19, is he still 19? So so much room to improve as well. But yeah, he's at the total other end of the scale for a 19-year-old to the last player we just discussed in terms of transfer fee. But there's been rumours the last couple hours about us being linked with Livramento, Alex, right back, obviously at Southampton. So
that's the thing. Obviously, we were doing preparation for this, and Livramento was one of the names who I wrote down because he can play both fullbacks. He's young. I think he'll be a class understudy at Trippier. He can get up and down the wing class. A very solid player for a player of his age. So the rumours are that we're putting in bids of between 12 and 15 million for him, and that's been confirmed by a lot of news outlets today, just this evening. So you've got The Athletic, you've got Romano, which I think at that price, it's an absolute no-brainer. Sam, obviously, you've just woke up in Australia, said what's the crack? How much is he going for? 40 million or what? So to get him for less than half that price, I think would be an absolute steal. Once again, England youth caps. There's literally no downside. There's no downside to getting him for this price.
Do you see there's some rumours about part of it being a swap deal for Ryan Fraser as well?
If that's the case, then getting him off our wage bill is absolutely perfect for us, yeah.
It's a win-win. It is a win-win.
I'll drive him to Southampton myself.
I'll
give him a lift. You won't take up much space in the car, so ideal.
No. Take a few more with you.
Man, Pete in the boot.
Yeah, that would be
thoughts.
It would, yeah, exactly. I'd echo the same thoughts. It's an absolute win-win. It's a position that we know, obviously, with Kraft being injured for most of last season. I think Livramento, to be fair, was injured for a fair bit last season as well. So
yeah,
that's the only little thing that would just, keep things a little bit, shaky, is to see how well he's gonna come back from that, because it was quite a serious injury from what I can remember. But yeah, we obviously had our serious injury to Kraft last season, which left us quite thin on the ground in that position. I think we all know that Manquillo has been a good servant, but it's not going to be one that we want to rely on heavily for having to fill in, especially on a Champions League level. So yeah, having Livramento be able to play both positions, left and right back, could be a real win for us. And yeah, definitely a player that can be moulded into the type of fullback that Eddie wants to have.
The thing with Kraft is as well is he's such a different type of player to Trippier that it does change the style quite a bit if he comes in. So having somebody like Livramento to come in when Trippier's not playing, I know he's not exactly the same, but he's a lot more in the same sort of mould that you can keep the system the same. And yeah, I mean, if the swap deal or the rumoured price tag, I mean, no brainer. So that would be a great transfer if we get it. Let's move on to
another fullback from Southampton as well.
Really?
Again, this has been mentioned a few times in the past few weeks with Walker Peters. His name always seems to crop up in the sort of rumours for Newcastle to sign. Again, I haven't seen any figure reported, but what do you reckon about him? Because he's been around for a long time. Obviously, he came through the Tottenham Academy. I think he's a very solid player, and again, for the right price, I wouldn't mind him. He can play both full-backs, and I think he's a solid player. So, what do you reckon?
It's the same. I would say it's one or the other for me. Just in the fact that they're quite similar in that they're both versatile and both good. Like Walker Peters, obviously slightly older, with a bit more experience behind him, so definitely a good player. But yeah, I would sort of be pumping more for Livramento to come in as that sort of longer term prospect. But yeah, nothing against Walker Peters, because I still think he's got plenty to offer. But yeah, no, for me it's Livramento.
Yeah, I think Walker Peters is a good player, but I'm not sure because of his age, because he is that bit older, I'm not sure he's quite good enough. Like at that age, you really want him coming into the starting 11, or at least being like we just talked about Sean Longstaff, like playing a lot of minutes. And I'm not sure at the level we're playing next season that he's quite there. That might be a bit harsh on him, but
yeah, see, I disagree to an extent. Like, I think, say if we had sort of Manquillo and Kraft, like if we let them go and brought in both of these fullbacks, I'd be quite happy to see Walker Peters starting on a weekend in the Premier League if Trippier needed a rest. Yeah, I quite rate him, and as you said about Kraft, he's a completely different kind of right back. Walker Peters is one who likes to get up and down again, so I think he'd be more our style than all the backups we've got, really. Even Target, I think he'd suit our style of playing a bit more. So I think, yeah, obviously Livramento, like a lot younger, sounds like a class price. But I don't think Walker Peters would be a bad signing if we can get him for sort of like maybe 12 mil or something like that tops.
Oh yeah, at that price I'd take him.
Yeah, well, I guess like how much are they expecting to get from him? Are they expecting to get over 20 mil from him? I'd be shocked if they did, to be honest.
I guess I don't know how much length he's got left on his contract, but I was guessing in that 20 million mark. So
yeah, he only just signed in 2020. Did Walker Peters from Spurs? So I'd imagine
you'd imagine 25
years more. Yeah,
he signed a new contract at the start of the season. So
did he?
Nah.
But he is a player that you'd expect to be back in the Premier League next season. Like, he's definitely too good for the Championship.
Oh, 100%. They say about his age, he's still only 26 years old. Like,
yeah.
I guess I'm
just thinking, compared to Livramento, like, 26, like you're coming into your prime. Really, as a player, really, you should be wanting to start every game at that age. But Yeah. I guess you've convinced me that if he's under 20 mil, then probably I would take him. But if it's one or the other, I'd go with Livramento.
That's fair.
Do you want to move on to the big man, James Ward-Prowse? Obviously in a position that, again, we're saying, like, we don't necessarily need if Tonali's coming in, but we probably do still need a more attacking-minded centre mid, which I wouldn't say James Ward-Prowse is, but I'll probably go with a no for James Ward-Prowse now that we've got Tonali in.
He's gonna be commanding quite a wage. I'd say if we were even thinking about getting him, or whoever ends up getting him, I can't imagine he'll stay around at Southampton next season. But he'll probably be looking, we're into the 100k mark per week, easy. Just for what he's been doing the last few seasons at Southampton, he's obviously built up this reputation of being this immense set piece taker, which obviously, if we were to include him in our team, to be able to have Ward-Prowse and a Trippier both in the same team, like that would strike, and Tonali, it strikes fear into opposition. If
Madison.
We haven't got on to him yet, Dawes. Hold your horses.
Hold your horses.
Hold your horses. So, it would strike fear into the opposition if they, free kick 25 yards out with all those players potentially surrounding the ball. I think Ward-Prowse is probably out of our price range a little bit without breaking the wage structure, and not as big a priority now, again, in that centre midfield position. Quality player though, I would absolutely love to see him playing in our team, at the same time I don't even know if we would have to change the system slightly to fit him in, because I don't know if he would be one that could just slot straight into the existing three-man midfield. I don't know. Maybe one of you guys think differently, but I would think it would have to somehow change it a little bit to get him working in our team.
I guess the thing is with that is he doesn't necessarily have to play the same way he's been playing for Southampton. Like, that's their system. If he's a good enough player, he should be able to play in our system. But I know what you're saying. Like, he's not exactly a like for like with the Longstaff. He's probably not going to come in for any other player into the starting 11. And we've just signed Tonali, so I don't know. I can't see it. Not with the price that we'll probably have to pay for him. I was just looking last season. He had 13 goal contributions, coming from 9 goals, 4 assists, which is pretty good for a centre mid.
He's the penalty taker as well. You've got to remember though. So a few of them goals probably came from there. I
was going to say pens and free kicks, and he wouldn't be taking every single free kick, so he wouldn't be putting up them numbers for us necessarily. But I don't know, Alex. What do you think?
No, I'm just echoing your sentiment. To be honest. He's really just not what we need right now for that kind of money.
Yeah,
if we're going to spend 50 million plus on a player, we don't need another sort of deep line playmaker. It's just not a need of ours right now. So you just think if there wasn't FFP, I'd say yep, absolutely fucking go for it. 50 mil, there you go. But we need to be clever with where we're spending our money. So right now, unfortunately, as AJ said, I'd love to see him in the Toon shirt. I think he's a quality player. He's a really good player. He's going to break Beckham's record for direct free kicks in the Prem. Got no doubt about that. But right now, no thanks, but no thanks.
I haven't even seen any major links with other teams for Ward-Prowse.
He seems to be linked with everyone without there being any strong links.
I think it's because
he's such a good player. It's like it makes sense that he's going to go to a Premier League team, but then nobody's really making a move for him. So,
Like you think like a Liverpool who are desperate for a centre mid, like you think they would like test the water or something like that.
But
Yeah.
West Ham are having a look at him apparently, and
well,
maybe
probably if
even
Rice
Fulham.
goes.
Yeah, but yeah, Fulham maybe as well as another destination, but yeah, or Palace, like somebody of that like mid
Feel
to
like he's too good
lower.
Do you
Maybe
think him as a player for his next move, he'd want to move to like a Champions League or at least like top 6 club? You think he wouldn't want to move to another sort of meddling club where he's just going to tick along for the rest of his career, maybe probably not win anything? You think him himself, like, and to be fair, if he moves to sort of the likes of Liverpool or Arsenal even, he's going to be on a bigger contract as well. He's going to be on 150 grand a week min,
Yeah.
and with a higher chance of trophies. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him to go to like a West Ham, like sort of best of the rest kind of team.
Yeah, I was thinking
Obviously
Villa,
not.
but obviously they've
Yeah,
made a signing that would have been on the list at Leicester and Yuri Tielemans. So
yeah. Apart from that, for me, for Southampton, there's not a lot left who I'd want to sign from them really. I'm not sure about you.
Bella Kotchap is another young
yeah,
player, and it's a position that we haven't really talked about yet. Is centre half, and that we
Yeah, because you don't really want defensive players from relegated sides because they've been relegated for a reason. Like
No.
often because they've conceded a lot of goals. But like, carry on. I know where you're seeing them.
Yeah, no, like you're right. Obviously Southampton definitely conceded a lot of goals last season, but Bella Kotchap has come in and like, yeah, he looks like a good, strong, like mould of a centre half. But again, of the modern age, he looks pretty comfortable on the ball as well. I didn't think, like at the start of the season, at least looking at Southampton, that they would have been down there struggling as much as they were, just on the basis of like the players that they had. I thought their defence looked pretty decent. But yeah, Bella Kotchap was the standout of that, and again, only 21, came in from the Bundesliga, and with quite a lot of people touting it as being, one of the astute signings of the summer. But yeah, I think he's one who I think some German clubs are looking to try and bring him back to the Bundesliga. No doubt that includes probably Bayern Munich, as they're always after the young German talents. But yeah, I think he's one that, again, in an area that we need, a right-sided centre half, Bella Kotchap would fill that role quite well.
I was having a look at him last night, and like you said, I was thinking of him as a potential understudy to share, due to his age and his position. But I'm not 100% sure how good he is with long balls, which obviously you would want if he's coming in for share. He does have 2 assists from last season, so potentially they were from long balls, but I haven't seen enough of him to really know. But apparently he's going to be around 20 million. So not a bad price if he is like thought of as that player who can come in and take over from Share once he takes a step back, which you would imagine would be the end of the next season. So I'd be interested to see if this actually progresses anywhere. And I don't think it's a bad shout. Bundesliga experience, good. Is he from Cameroon? So I don't know.
Yeah, I think German born, but French born actually. But yeah,
Does he play for the national side, or
he has
who's he
played
play for?
two. He's played for Germany. So he grew up in Germany,
Oh, right, okay.
born in Paris. But yeah, he's born in Germany. He's played 2 for the senior team. But yeah, he is of Cameroonian descent as well, so he had a few options internationally to choose from. But yeah, he's looks like, I mean, the German national team right now are looking a bit ropey, but I think they're going through a bit of a phase of trying to phase out some of the older players and bring in some of the new younger players like Bella into the team. So he could end up being a cornerstone of that German national team for the years to come, potentially. But he'd obviously have to be making a move pretty soon from Southampton if he wanted to keep a hold of that place in the team.
Leicester City then, obviously just mentioned we were linked with Tielemans, but he's going to be signing for Villa on the 1st of July. I didn't want him anyway, so I'm quite happy about that. We might as well get the obvious one out the way straight away with James Maddison. It's an easy one for me. I would take him. It's going to cost a bit of money, but if the rumours are true, we're trying to get him under £50 million, and I think if we can, then we should. His contract's expiring next summer, so that goes in our favour, trying to get him out of there and trying to get a decent price. And I mean, I imagine everyone who's watching or listening to this knows everything about James Maddison, but a lot of goal contributions last season again in a team that was getting relegated, and that would just, he can play the right side as well. That's what I like about him. So we've got that option. If Almiron isn't firing, obviously I know you love Murphy, Tom, but he's a cut above Murphy. But then he can play in centre mid as well. So obviously a more forward player. He's probably, if we signed him, we wouldn't be looking at the likes of Szoboszlai, but obviously in this show we're talking about the relegated teams, so I don't know who wants to pick up the baton from James Maddison, but I'm a yes.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer again for me. The creativity that we're at times, at the start of the year or turn of this year, when we were going through a bit of a dodgy patch, it seemed as though creativity wise we just hit a bit of a brick wall, and I think in terms of what Maddison can bring, like you'd mentioned there, the sort of positions that he can play in, and just what he offers generally, he can get past a player. He's got a little trick, a little turn of pace, not loads but enough to build on, but yeah, just his vision is like next level, and I think that is the key thing for me, just having another player maybe slightly further advanced than Bruno, with very similar ability in terms of can pick that final pass, can get the cross in, and obviously another decent player for set pieces as well. So
another one.
He's hitting his prime as well. So I think he's going to have a good few years at in his prime. So yeah, and he's hungry. He's hungry for. He wants to carry on, being a success. He obviously was part of a successful Leicester side that won the FA Cup, and I think he'll want to win stuff with us. So, it's a winner there for us that comes in and knows how to do it, and but I think could be a perfect signing.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say don't let him take pens, because he obviously had that stinker against Everton, which potentially sent them down. So hopefully we'll get him on the cheap thanks to that, and never let him take one. I know he said set pieces, but keep him on the free kicks. Penalties, not for me. Apart from that, class signing, no brainer, get him in. 50 million. Again, that's another player. How, as long as the further this window goes on, like the cheaper we should theoretically get him for, because he's not kicking a ball in the Championship this season. It's just simply not going to happen. He's leaving Leicester. There's going to be a standoff at some point. Obviously, Tottenham are interested, but Tottenham are offering 50 million for Maddison and Barnes, who are worth they're worth that each. So if they're going to take the piss with low ball offers, Leicester aren't even going to listen to them. So, and obviously, I genuinely think the state that the two clubs are now, why the fuck would he go and join Tottenham over us? Unless, as some people say on Twitter, oh, fucking Newcastle's a shithole, he wants to live in London, all that bollocks. He shouldn't be thinking about that, he should be thinking about his football. Where's he more likely to win something going forward? And it's Newcastle United.
Well, I think that myth's been busted since we signed like Trippier and and obviously the other players that have come in since as well, but mainly
Tonali.
Trippier. Well, Tonali, yeah, exactly.
Botman choosing us over Milan as well.
Yeah, like that. The myth of why would anyone want to live up in the northeast is complete.
He's good mates with Wilson as well, isn't he? So
exactly, he's got players around him that. Yeah, he's got plenty in the current team that he knows from England duties and outside of football. So yeah, I think that's enough of a, and we've been saying it all throughout the season. Like whenever we've seen like clips of them away on international duty, we've been like, yeah, all the Toon lads have been in his ear, like convincing him, and I reckon that still probably has been a factor. And I do hope that we do, get a concrete bid landed in for him once Tonali's signed and sealed, and just test Leicester's resolve.
I think one question I have with Maddison is, would you want to try and haggle on the price a lot and let it roll on towards the end of the window, try and get a better deal, or just pay that bit extra, maybe 5 mil extra, just to get him through the door now so he gets a full pre-season, he goes away with the lads to America and stuff, Eddie Howe gets longer to work with him before? Or do you think because he is such a good player, he's already Premier League proven, we don't necessarily need the pre-season as much, so we should focus on getting the best price?
Tough one, that obviously you would like to get him for pre-season, but we've shown that we're not going to be bent over backwards for the sake of 5 million. However, Leicester are known for being stubborn with the prices. They wait to get what they want, whether it's Fofana, whether it's Maguire. They don't sell unless their asking price is met. So it could be a bit of a Mexican standoff if we don't want to sort of reach that 50 million mark. If they think there's some kind of bidding war going on between us and Tottenham will end up paying it, I don't know. To answer your question, yeah, probably I would like to get him in early.
Yeah.
Get him a full pre-season, yeah.
It's easy to say when it's not your money, innit? But
but 5 million over 5 years, an extra 1 million a year on FFP to get him bedded in, training with the lads, ready to go for August the 12th. Yeah, I'd fucking get it done. Sign the contract.
It's intriguing though with him, his contract being out. Obviously, he'd never run it down, or Leicester would never allow it to run down. But all that way. But yeah, to know that a player of that quality could in the space of another season be there for nothing, it's I think that'll be playing on Dan Ashworth's mind. I think he'll be look, we know that his contract's going to be out. You don't want another Tielemans situation where you let a quality player go for niche. So we can I think be in a real good sort of position to really haggle to get something respectable for him, rather than be having to spend 50 million.
So you'd lean towards taking more time and haggling?
I would lean a little bit more towards it, and I think he's a player who yeah, I think it would be nice to have him. Like every player, we want him to have a full pre-season and get to know everybody. But I think he comes across like he can be professional enough to come in towards the end of the pre-season and still just slot in like he's been there the whole time.
I guess the good thing is, like we're saying,
yeah.
he knows lads already. Unlike a Tonali who's coming in, doesn't know anyone.
Sam, you have got to remember that you're talking to a guy who haggles for a fiver outside a nightclub in Liverpool when he doesn't want to pay it. And when all of us have gone into the club, he stands outside, he shakes his head, and he's gone, "Fiver, I'm not paying that."
I know me price. I know me standards. Look, and Crazy House is not five worthy, mate. Yeah, that's another story. I don't even know if it's still around.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Amount of money they're making off those £5 entry fees.
Business model all wrong. That's why they're not open anymore. Should have been free entry. Would have got people like Page coming in. Buying drinks all night.
Big spenders like Page.
Big spender.
I'd have been getting all kinds of drinks. I wouldn't have been settling for the Alka-Pops or whatnot. No, I'd have been straight in for the top shelf stuff. Yeah. No. So I think we could hang on a little bit more. But yeah, I thought I was going to mention then. I know Alex mentioned the other player that I was really keen on is Harvey Barnes. And interesting to hear that Spurs are trying to do a double deal to get both Maddison and Barnes. I would happily do the same. I think Barnes is a player that could really do good things for us, especially if we're serious about letting go of Maxi. I think Barnes is that type of player who can be a little bit similar, but direct, like runs at his man, and he has definitely improved on his goal contributions over the last few seasons. So yeah, I think Barnes could be a real player for us if we wanted to push the boat out and get him as well. But yeah, I agree with Alex there that he's going to be in the similar regions, maybe a little less than what they're after
like
for
40,
Maddison, but he's still a significant outlay for.
See, I'm not sure I rate him at that price. I know what you're saying, but I'm not sure he's quite as good as people make out. If Maxi was to leave,
if you could do a straight swap with Maxi, would you?
Probably not, to be honest.
Well, he scored 13 goals last season and an assist, and that's far more than what Maxi got. Like,
and I guess fitness-wise, he doesn't seem to pick up as many injuries. I think that's
true.
I genuinely think that's a tough question. You know, like I think Bond has got more end product. Tends to stay fitter, but Maxi on his day is unplayable, and he's a completely different like to anything else we've got as well. Whereas Barnes is a more traditional winger, cut inside, and he's obviously very good at it. But I don't know who I'd pick out of the two. It was like the same offer on the table, genuinely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't know if like them stats are him having a good season or whether that is like, it's like you look at Miggy's stats for this season, you're like, oh yeah, he's been smashing the goals in, he's an incredible player, but you know, because we've seen him for this many seasons, like that was him at the absolute peak of his game, probably overperforming, and he probably won't do those numbers next season. I don't know.
Well, the thing is, he's trending towards like, you know, that a player who's 25, again heading towards, you know, getting towards prime level. So going back,
we should have a fucking sponsorship with Prime. By the way, the amount of times we've said at this fucking pod. As soon as someone hits 25, 26, fucking Prime.
Prime.
Do you know what
That's what he's
Prime footballer.
That is what he's been drinking all throughout, you know, and that's why he's becoming this prime player. Yeah, he's got so going back to like 2018-19 season, he got 1 goal in 16 matches with a couple of assists, but then the next season it was 6 goals, 8 assists, and that was a 36 game season for him. And then 9 goals, 4 assists the next season, slightly less games, 25, and then 6 goals, 10 assists the season before last, and that was in 32 games. And then last season 13 goals, 1 assist in 34. So I mean, goal contribution wise, he gets better, and he's I don't know, like it's a tough one. It is a tough one to say whether or not he would stand out better or be more reliable than like Maxi. If
I think the thing for me as well is I can imagine Maxi in the Champions League absolutely tearing it up, whereas I just can't imagine Harvey Barnes doing that in the Champions League. Like, them numbers are very good, and they are, like you say, they're trending up, which I guess if you're playing them in the Premier League week in, week out, it does sound like you're probably going to get those sorts of numbers. Maybe it's not 13 goals, but somewhere around 15 to 20 goal contributions. I mean, that would be fantastic. But I don't know, Alex, what's your thoughts on Harvey Barnes?
I think probably for the price, I would say it's a miss. I do rate him. I do think he's a great player, but I think right now, I think he'd be a rotation option, which if we're going to spend that much money on, I'd like to think we'd probably look for someone who plays more on the right wing, who's going to be a starter, who could maybe replace the likes of like sort of Miggy and Murphy, who aren't that Champions League caliber quality player. And Harvey Barnes, I think he could do a job in the Champions League, to be honest, but I think there's probably better value, probably outside the Premier League, to be honest, for that price.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, he is outside the Premier League, like, but
well, outside of England.
To be fair, I mean, it's a similar sort of teams that we've mentioned already that are sniffing about. So West Ham and even Villa. I feel like if he was to land at Villa, again, I mean, Villa are putting together a bit of a squad there if they were to land him. But maybe you're right. It's probably one that is just a little bit out. Well, not just. I don't know. I'm saying he's not the sort of target that we need to aim for. I would personally like to get both him and Maddison in, but agree we'd probably have to let Maxi go. But
well, I guess the other thing is if Maxi himself does want to go, that's obviously up in the air at the minute. Whether like the rumours seem to change all the time, whether he's wanting to leave or not. But if he does leave, like, not us letting him go, like he wants to leave, then we have to replace him. Then he probably is a good replacement for Maxi. But the other thing is we're just saying there, like, we're comparing him to Maxi, but Maxi's not even starting for us at the minute. It's Joe Linton on the left, or like him and Willock swapping over. So, like you say, he's not going to be coming in as a starter necessarily. So, if the fee is the same as what we got for Maxi, then I'd probably say yeah. But I would, if it was our choice, I would keep Maxi.
I mean, his goal contribution certainly outweighs the lot of them. More so. I mean, but then we know that Willock and Joelinton probably do a hell of a lot more in the team than what Barnes would in terms of what he brings.
But also, do you not think that he's
player.
Relied upon a lot more for Leicester as well? So he has to carry the team a bit more, and he has to get these goal contributions because, he's their top, like, probably in their top 3 players.
Well, yeah, probably. And we know, obviously, through the years that, well, Jamie Vardy was their prime goal scorer, but then as the years have gone on, he's kind of faded away a little bit more. So, up have stepped these Maddisons and Barneses to kind of help get those goals. And I mean, without their goals, like I think they ended up scoring between them like 23 or 28, something in that region. So without them, like they could have been well gone a lot sooner than they actually were. So they're so they were so key to how Leicester played. So yeah, you're right. They wouldn't be as relied upon for us as much as they were for Leicester. So that might be skewing it a little bit. But I don't know. I still feel like it would be great if we could get both of them in, but it's very unlikely.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's just that position is probably not somewhere I'd want to spend that much money this window. But there's one more player from Leicester I've got on my list to talk about, and that's Dewsbury Hall. Which, again, due to his position, I'm not sure that one would happen. But again, I think he's a good player. He's 24, but you're probably talking too much money again to get him out of Leicester. And I feel like he's one of them that they will want to keep in the Championship.
Yeah, I was going to say 100%. He's one that you build around. He's come through the academy, and yeah, I think they'll expect him to stay and try and be one of them dominating midfielders in the Championship. So yeah, unlikely that we would that he leaves, to be honest. Yeah, I can't see many people even like necessarily chasing him either, but that's not because he's a bad player, just more so because I just feel like there's probably other sort of players in a similar position in the market that would be more appealing than Dewsbury Hall. But yeah, I can see him still being at Leicester start the season.
Yeah, I think it's likely that he will be at Leicester, but he is too good for the Championship. He should tear it up in that league, and obviously with Maddison going, he should be starting every game for them. I do think, however, I think for us, yes, I probably wouldn't want to spend sort of upwards of 20 million on him, but I think for a side going up, like Luton or something like that, I think if they wanted a player Premier League ready to start in midfield for them, I think they would happily spend 20-25 million on him. I think he's a quality player. And he's got like a hell of an engine. He's got a ridiculous strike on him. He scored some fucking worldies last season.
Yeah.
So yeah, he wouldn't be a bad signing for Newcastle, but once again, where the money is going to be spent in midfield, rather spend it elsewhere. But he would be a great rotation option, to be fair.
I'll tell you a player who, like, we've not mentioned, but a few years ago, everybody was after him, like Man United heavily linked. I remember Wilfred Ndidi, like,
yeah.
And I don't know if it's just like this season that his form just has meant that he's dropped like out of everybody's like interests, but yeah, at some stage everybody was saying what a player like Ndidi is like, but yeah, I'm not sure what they're going to do with him, but obviously, had his form remained from a few years ago, he'd have been one I'd have been saying we should look at. But yeah, I don't think he's. I don't know what's going to happen to him actually.
It's strange how much he's dropped off, because as you said, he was linked with so many big moves. Like, arguably, people mention him as one of the best defensive midfielders in the league a couple of years ago. And now there's no real buzz about him. The only story that I've seen is Celtic, which is obviously a huge drop off from like where he was touted to go a couple of years ago. And to be fair, when I've watched him on the pitch, it's been apparent that he's just not been playing half as well as he was a couple of seasons ago. So yeah, I wouldn't be interested in signing him, but you're right. Like, it's a it's a weird one how he's just dropped off like that, and he's still mid-20s. Like it's not like he's getting on. He should be coming into his prime, you could say, at this age. But yeah, it just tailed off a little bit. So it's a hard no for me for Ndidi. Like,
And then the other one was Boubakary Soumaré, who we were very close, or apparently very close to signing a few seasons ago, before the new owners. I think this was when Bruce was still as manager, but we were quite heavily linked with getting Soumaré in. But again, didn't see much of much about him from last season to think that that would be worth bringing in, to be honest. Again, another similar sort of like role of centre midfielder that we just he's quite a physical presence. Maybe could like be a like Joe Linton type sort of rotation option, but again, I don't think he pulled up many trees last season. So interesting though that a player that we could have had very realistically, but yeah, he's now playing in the Championship.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be touching him. Although, like, he's still young, and probably if he was to play under Eddie Howe, he'd probably advance a bit. But nah, not for me.
so one last player I'd written down was James Justin, and I know he's been played with injuries for the past couple of seasons, but when he is on the pitch, he's such a good marauding left back. It's a position where we are looking to fill. Obviously, we mentioned earlier we've been linked with a whole host of left backs. If we could get him for the right price, I don't know his contract details. If we could get him for the right price, I wouldn't mind getting him in. But I guess it's the same argument with Tierney and his injury woes, that if you're going to get someone in, Tierney will be a better quality player by far. Obviously, captain of the Scotland team, or him and Robertson maybe, but yeah, James Justin, like, I do like him. I really like him when he plays. If he was at his best all the time, without his injury worries, I'd snap him up. Obviously, he's a completely different profile to Dan Burn.
Yeah, he can play right back as well, can't he?
Yeah, he's played both full backs as well. So another versatile one, but I think there's just too many question marks over his fitness to actually want to go in for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, you don't want another Jamal Lewis on there.
Exactly. Aye.
And then the final one I was gonna throw out there was if we were to look at another striker option, the Patton Daka, I quite like. I know, Dorsey, you're going to argue against me on this one and go for his teammate Iheanacho, but for me, Daka, like, he came in with a big reputation from I think he was playing in Austria at one of the Red Bull team, Salzburg, and he was bagging in goals. Came through the same sort of like path that Haaland kind of went through. But yeah, he's obviously not kind of bagged the same level of goals since he's been at Leicester. But he's somebody who, he's got a bit of pace. Like, he can play sort of just off the last man, like bit like when Wilson likes to turn his man and get in behind. So I don't know. I think he's somebody who could be a good foil for Wilson, and maybe like he would definitely come in as a third choice again. But he's kind of played that role in some degree at Leicester already this season, behind Vardy at times and Iheanacho. But I think he's a good player, and but I wouldn't know exactly how much they would be looking to recoup, because I think they spent about 30 million euros or something bringing him in. So yeah, they may be expecting a bit of a similar amount. he's looking at 18 million euros on Transfermarkt. So yeah, probably somewhere in the region of like that and 30 million euros. But yeah, I don't know. Dors, you'll probably come in and yeah, try and change my mind on Iheanacho.
No, it's not that I don't rate Daka at all. He's looked sharp since he's came in. I do think he looks a player. It's just the fact that I really rate Iheanacho. I think he's an absolute wasted talent, and the fact that like I've seen Leicester play a few times this season, and whenever he plays, Leicester play better. Like he's a great striker. Like obviously came from Man City for a decent price, and when he played, he looked like really good. It's one of those like Nonto earlier. I just don't understand why they didn't start him more. Like in the running, like he got injured I think in the running, but before that, like he's playing well. I don't get it. Like he's too good for the Championship, no doubt. If he stays, I doubt he will. He'll bag 30 goals in the Championship, like no doubt. I think he's a great player, and I really wouldn't mind again for the right price if we could get him as a striker in. I would take him in a heartbeat. I really would.
I think he's only got a year left on his contract.
Obviously, he's got that bit more Premier League experience than Daka as well. Like he knows the game. Like he's played under, like in the youth. Actually, I think he did. Does he actually played first team appearances for Man City? I think he played a few, didn't he?
I think he did just before.
Sold him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he would be my pick out of the two. But yeah, Daka's young, he's sharp, he plays off the last man. Like he wouldn't be a bad signing by any stretch either. But yeah, that's my lot on Leicester.
To be honest, I don't think for me I'd take Daka, but I probably would. Iheanacho, and the fact that his contract's out next season as well makes it a bit more realistic. But I think they both could come in and do a job, but I think the one that I could see more potential in is Iheanacho, but I can't see either of them happening realistically.
No.
I think let's question why Leicester have allowed they allowed Tielemans' contract to run down, and then they've let Maddison and Iheanacho to be 1 year away from their contracts coming up. It just seems like they've missed the ball a little bit on protecting their assets with letting these players run their contracts down so much. I hope that we don't ever let ourselves get into that position. But just interesting that they've let so many key players' contracts come to an end or close to an end.
I wonder if it's partly down to the change in I know they only changed mid-season last season, but change of managers and the fact that were they in the relegation battle last season, or did they do all right? Can't remember.
About the season before last.
Yeah.
I think they were.
I don't think they were they?
No,
I don't think they weren't in a relegation battle, I'm sure.
No. So it is a strange one, but I don't think they've been run very well, other than Leicester at the moment.
I think since the chairman obviously unfortunately died in that helicopter crash, I think they have been poorly run by his son, and also King Power itself. It's like a duty-free business, isn't it? So with COVID, that's took an absolute fucking battering.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a combination of moving to a new chairman, him not being as sort of in touch with the club or whatever, and the King Power business itself not doing as well. I think it's probably a combination of the two. That's just they went from being one of the best run clubs in the league to probably one of the worst. Yeah, but that's probably a conversation for another pod, I guess.
I'll look forward to that one.
The deep dive into Leicester finances.
So that's it then. Nobody else got any on the list?
I'm all done.
Yep, all done.
A fair few names considering these are relegated sides, but
yeah, I think unfortunately a lot of them are kind of in that position where we're not looking to spend a lot of money now that Tonali's coming in, but there is
Yeah.
definitely some talent that can be scooped up, and it'd be interesting to see. I think the ones that are most interesting are the ones that we've looked at fullbacks. Obviously Madison, which we hope will come off, but then there's some good fullback options there.
Livramento would be the dream one, like
Yeah.
for that price. I think that would be a brilliant sign.
Sweet. Well, that was our take on the players we would take from the relegated teams from last season, Leeds, Leicester and Southampton. But be interested to know what you guys out there think as well, if there's anyone we missed that you think would come in and do a great job. And let us know if you agree with us or you disagree on some of the stuff we've said. And also, if you can, like the episode, follow it, download it, do all that business. It does really help us out and reach a wider audience. And we'll be back in the next episode, which is going to be a bit of a spicy one. So make sure you come back for that one, and we'll see you there. Cheers, lads.